Imagine losing your job and your wife smiling about it. That was the day everything in my life shifted. I thought we were a team, that marriage meant standing together when things got tough. But when I came home with a box in my hands instead of a paycheck, she actually cheered. She said maybe now I'd learn humility. That night, I sat alone, wondering how love could turn into laughter at someone's pain. I didn't know it then, but that same moment, the one that broke me, would become the reason she'd regret ever underestimating me. This is my story of betrayal, karma, and how success became my quiet revenge. When I lost my job, my wife actually smiled. It wasn't a big grin, just this tiny smirk at the corner of her mouth that she tried to hide. But I saw it. You don't forget the moment your world falls apart, especially when the person you love most looks almost relieved. That morning started like any other. Coffee, tie, the same traffic jam that made me curse under my breath every weekday. I didn't know it would be my last drive to that office. I'd been working there for 6 years. Loyal, dependable. The guy who never called in sick. But loyalty doesn't matter when your company is cutting costs. My manager called me in and closed the door. He couldn't even look me in the eye. "It's not about your performance," he said. "It's just the economy." Those words echoed as I packed my things into a cardboard box. My heart was heavy, my palms cold. I'd never been unemployed before. I kept thinking about how my wife, Emma, would react. I imagined her holding me, telling me it was okay, that we'd figure it out together. That's what partners do, right? But when I told her, she laughed. Not the good kind of laugh. It was short, sharp, and full of disbelief. "You? Fired? Wow," she said, shaking her head. "Maybe now you will understand how it feels to not be in control all the time." I just stood there, confused. I had supported her when she lost her own job 2 years ago. I paid the bills, cooked, cleaned, kept her spirits up. But now, when it was my turn to fall, she stepped on me instead of lifting me up. That night, I sat alone in our small living room, the one I worked so hard to pay for. I could hear her in the bedroom, on the phone with someone, laughing again. I didn't want to believe it, but something in me changed. That's when I realized sometimes the person you think will stand by you through everything is secretly waiting for you to fail. And losing my job? That was only the beginning of losing her too. After the job loss, I tried to stay hopeful. I kept telling myself it was just a season, that my wife and I would get through it. But something about her changed almost overnight. Emma stopped coming home early. She started dressing differently. More makeup, new perfume, and late-night girls' dinners that didn't add up. I'd ask where she was, and she'd sigh like I was being controlling. "You're home all day now, bored, so you're imagining things," she'd say. But it wasn't imagination. It was intuition, the kind that keeps you up at night. I noticed how she avoided eye contact, how her laughter disappeared whenever I walked into a room. Our house, once full of warmth, started feeling like a hotel she barely wanted to check into. I kept searching for jobs, sending out resumes, showing her that I was trying. Every rejection email felt like a nail in the coffin of my marriage. I thought the worst part of losing my job was the paycheck, but it was actually losing the version of my wife who once believed in me. One night, she came home past midnight, smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. When I asked, she rolled her eyes and said, "You're paranoid." That word paranoid stuck in my chest. Because I wasn't crazy. I was just a man watching his marriage quietly die, while pretending not to notice. It finally exploded one morning over something small, an unpaid bill. I told her we'd be fine once I got back on my feet. She snapped. "You've been saying that for months," she shouted. "Do you even realize how pathetic you look sitting at home every day? I didn't marry a loser, Daniel." Loser. That word burned more than the job loss ever did. I stood there, holding my coffee mug, trying not to react, but inside, something cracked. This was the same woman who once told me she loved how calm and hardworking I was. Now she was looking at me like I was a stranger who disgusted her. She stormed off, muttering, "Maybe I made a mistake marrying someone with no ambition." And that's when I realized it wasn't the job that broke us. It was her pride. I went out that afternoon and applied for anything I could. Delivery jobs, handyman work, even washing cars. I needed to feel useful again. Not for her, but for myself. That night, I found her phone buzzing on the couch. A message preview flashed before it locked. "Can't wait to see you again." I didn't unlock it. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at those words, realizing that maybe the version of my wife I was fighting for no longer existed. A week later, I started delivering food. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. Every door I knocked on reminded me that I still had something to give. Meanwhile, Emma kept drifting away. She barely spoke to me unless it was to complain about money or bills. Her tone had changed, colder, distant, almost like she was embarrassed to be seen with me. But something inside me shifted too. For the first time, I stopped begging for her approval. I started focusing on my next move. Every tip I earned, I saved. Every quiet night, I planned. I began learning about small business management, watching free online courses while she slept. One night, I overheard her on the phone again. This time, she said, "He's still broke. I can't leave yet. He'll just fall apart." Those words cut deep, but they also woke me up. I didn't need her pity. I didn't need her presence. I needed my purpose back. That's when I made myself a promise. If losing my job showed me who she really was, maybe it also showed me who I needed to become. By the third month, the lies weren't even subtle anymore. Emma's girls' nights became overnight stays. She claimed she was at her cousin's house, but her cousin posted beach pictures without her. I wasn't stupid. I just didn't want to face the truth. But the truth found me anyway. One evening, I was doing a delivery downtown when I saw her car parked outside a fancy restaurant. Curiosity or maybe pain made me look closer. Through the glass, I saw her, laughing, leaning across the table, holding another man's hand. It wasn't just betrayal. It was confirmation. Everything, the distance, the coldness, the fake smiles, all made sense. I didn't confront her that night. I just watched for a moment, realizing how far she'd already gone. Then, I drove away. That drive home was silent, but powerful. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Because sometimes, the deepest revenge isn't shouting or fighting. It's silently preparing for the day they realize who they lost. That night, I deleted every photo of her from my phone. Not out of hate, but acceptance. I whispered to myself, "You lost your job, Daniel, but maybe you just found your reason to rebuild." After that night, I stopped checking her location, stopped waiting for her texts, stopped hoping she'd change. Something in me had already shifted. The same pain that broke me also became the thing that built me. My job loss had taken everything, my pride, my income, and my sense of direction, but it also stripped away every illusion. I realized I'd been living to make my wife proud instead of making myself whole. So I started rebuilding quietly. Between deliveries, I listened to business podcasts. I learned about marketing, e-commerce, and branding. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning because I didn't want pity. I wanted peace. Within 6 months, I started a small online store selling customized work gear. It began small, just one order, then another. But every sale felt like oxygen. My wife barely noticed. She was too busy living her double life, but that was okay. I wasn't living for her anymore. Sometimes, losing love is the only way to find your purpose again. And as crazy as it sounds, I started feeling grateful for the job loss that once felt like a curse. A year later, everything had changed. My small online store turned into a full business with real clients and consistent income. I rented a small office space and hired one part-time employee. But what surprised me most wasn't the success. It was the peace. I wasn't chasing revenge, and I wasn't even angry anymore. I just felt proud. When my wife finally noticed, it was too late. She came home one evening, saw the new car in the driveway, and asked, "When did you get this?" I smiled. "A few weeks ago." She blinked, confused. "You didn't tell me." "I didn't think you'd care," I said quietly. She didn't reply. For the first time, she looked small, unsure. I could see regret flicker across her face, but I didn't feed it. I'd learned that real revenge isn't making someone hurt, it's showing them you're fine without them. And I was more than fine. It happened late one night, almost a year and a half after she left. I was scrolling through my messages when her name popped up. "Emma, can we talk?" Just 3 words, but they hit like thunder. I didn't reply immediately. I sat there, staring at my screen, remembering everything. The laughter when I lost my job, the nights alone, the betrayal. The next morning, another message came. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. She asked if we could meet for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Not because I wanted her back, but because I wanted closure. When someone who betrayed you finally reaches out, it's not about love anymore. It's about seeing if you've truly healed. I arrived early. She came in wearing the same perfume I once loved. Now it just smelled like a memory. She looked tired, older, like life had humbled her. We sat across from each other in silence for a few seconds before she spoke. I don't even know where to start, she said softly. I thought the grass was greener, Daniel. I was wrong. I listened without interrupting. She explained how her new relationship had fallen apart, how the man she chose over me cheated on her too. She said she missed the way I made her feel safe. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the night she laughed when I lost my job. I remembered sleeping alone while she was out with friends. So I said, I forgive you, Emma, but I don't miss you. Her eyes filled with tears. So that's it? She whispered. That's it, I said quietly. You taught me how to love myself after losing everything. That's something I'll always thank you for. A few weeks later, she called again, asking if there was still a chance for us. I told her no. It wasn't anger, it was peace. I had already rebuilt my life. I had already forgiven her, but I wasn't going backward. My wife had cheered when I lost my job. She thought my failure was the end of me, but it turned out it was the beginning of everything I was meant to become. Now, every time I drive past my old office, I smile, not because I miss it, but because it reminds me how far I've come. People always talk about karma like it's some dramatic revenge story, but the truth is, karma doesn't always show up loud. Sometimes, it whispers. Sometimes, it looks like peace, success, and a calm heart. And if she's still out there wondering how I could move on so easily, I hope she remembers one thing. When she cheered for my downfall, she accidentally cheered for my rebirth.